The Trump versus Epstein files case just got even darker. Let me refresh your memory, because apparently we're all supposed to forget this ever happened.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? It just seems like a desecration.
In 2019, Jeffrey Epstein, billionaire, convicted predator, pedophile, and close friend to more famous people than I can ever list here, was finally arrested. Oddly enough, this was during Trump's first term. So the FBI raided his island, his home, seized his records, and everyone thought, oh, wow, maybe, just maybe, we're actually gonna find out who was on that list. And then he died in federal jail under 24-hour surveillance. Both guards fell asleep. The camera just happened to malfunction for the minute when it mattered most. The missing minute became legendary. So legendary, people even started joking about it, with AI memes of Hillary Clinton casually strolling into the cell during that gap. And yet, still no client list. No accountability, but it didn't just fizzle out. You see, the FBI and conveniently the Trump administration basically shrugged and said, nothing to see here, and quietly closed the case. Really? After that? After all of that campaigning and innuendos? After raiding his island, finding safes full of tapes and names, they just moved on. And they want us to move on. But now, Donald Trump has came out with an even crazier claim about the files. Now the files actually do exist, but you won't believe who he claims fabricated them to make him look bad. And later in this video, you're gonna hear, with your own ears, Ghislaine Maxwell herself calling in from prison, saying she was ready to tell the whole truth. But before we get into that, guys, my name is Ruslan. This channel exists to encourage, empower, and inspire you to live a life that blesses God. Sometimes that looks like us exposing the things in the darkness so we, as followers of Jesus, can continue walking in the light. So if you're new here, or if you're not new here, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. There's a huge percentage of the people that watch this channel regularly, unfortunately, are not subscribed, and we are right on the cusp of reaching 800,000 subscribers, and I would love to celebrate that with you. All right, let's jump into the video. I think it's important to note that this Epstein story isn't just about gossip or conspiracy theories. At this point, it's way beyond that. It's about how often powerful people exploit the weak and hide behind systems of corruptions and systems of cover-up. Proverbs 17:15 warns that acquitting the guilty and condemning the innocent, the Lord detests them both. That those are actually equivalent when we go out and we cover up the guilty or we condemn the innocent. But when both sides seem complicit, what can we do? So here's how we're breaking this story down today. First, we're going to talk about the denial and the deflection we're seeing from American leaders. Then we're going to address the evidence and patterns of corruption beneath the surface. And then third, we're going to address the cracks in the silence and why the truth always comes out. Now, let's start at the top. By this point, I'm sure some of you guys have seen Trump's response to the latest backlash of people wanting answers about the Epstein files.
So could you resolve whether or not he did, and also could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the latest?
Yeah, sure. If
Did I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Now, this is a stark contrast in tone compared to what he had said years earlier when running for president. Check this out.
I don't know, but that island was really a cesspool. There's no question about it. Just ask Prince Andrew. He'll tell you about it. The island was an absolute cesspool. So,
the Clintons are friends
and he's
of
been
yours,
there
right?
for many times.
Well,
I can't say friends, but I know
You're friendly. You know them.
They play at my clubs a lot. I have clubs, and everybody likes to play
Are you
at my
saying
clubs.
there's a political problem for her if she runs for president?
It could be a political problem. Look, he could be a political problem. Right now, he's Teflon, and right now, maybe not. But he could end up being a political problem.
So it's interesting hearing Trump say that Bill Clinton could be a political problem. And even the reporters in that interview asked if they were friends. Him and the Clintons were friends. And he said, well, we weren't friends, but they played at my club. So that was a while ago when he was running for president. Now, this is what he is saying about the Epstein files today. What's going on with my boys, and in some cases, gals? They're all going after Attorney General Pam Bondi, who's doing a fantastic job. We're on the same team, MAGA, and I don't like what's happening. We have a perfect administration, the talk of the world, and selfish people are trying to hurt it all over a guy who never dies, Jeffrey Epstein. So I think he is saying boys in this situation with folks, in the podcast sphere that now are speaking out about this. We'll look at one of them here in a second, specifically what Andrew Schultz had to say. And what Trump is getting at is now this is not something that needs to be exposed. This is not something that they're going to keep as a promise to the American people, the way that some people thought he should and the way he kind of alluded to in his campaigning. But now he's saying for years, it's Epstein over and over again. Why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama, Crooked Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and the losers and criminals of the Biden administration who conned the world with Russia, hoax 51 intelligence agents, the laptop from hell, and more. They created the Epstein files. So now Epstein files can't come out, not because they make the Clintons look guilty, but because the Clintons and the left created the Epstein files. Interesting. Just like they created fake Hillary Christopher Steele dossier they used on me. And now so-called friends are playing right into their hands. I think, again, he's looking at the Tucker Carlsons. He's looking at the podcast run that he did. He feels like these people are playing into their hands. Why didn't these radical left lunatics release the Epstein files? If there was anything in there that could have hurt the MAGA movement, why wouldn't they use it? They haven't even given up on the John F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King files. So now it seems like this has changed from, hey, the Epstein files are going to implicate Clintons and other people on the left, to now the Epstein files were going to get potentially his administration in trouble. And there's nothing to see here, folks. Which leads us to the first point. This is textbook denial and deflection. I'm not saying that the folks who are part of his administration are all guilty. What I am saying is it seems like there is more to this than is being led on, which is causing many people who support Donald Trump to be frustrated. Meaning this, perhaps there is no conspiracy. Perhaps there is nothing at all in these files, or they lost the files. What I think is reasonable is folks like Kash Patel to explain why they pushed the conspiracy narrative for so long, only for now it to fall flat and there's nothing to see here. That's the tension, is if you guys got it wrong and there was no conspiracy and there was nothing here, then perhaps just explain it. How did you guys run on these campaigns? How were you so certain once upon a time that this stuff was going to come out and now there's nothing to see here? Or it appears as if what is in the files perhaps implicates Trump, or maybe it doesn't implicate Trump, but it implicates the folks at the top who are really running the government, the shadow government, if you will, the CIA, whatever other three-letter agencies. That's the issue, but it doesn't justify the deflection and the denial that's happening here. John chapter 3, verse 20 says, everyone who does evil hates the light and will not come into the light for fear that their deeds will be exposed. But whoever lives by the truth comes into the light so that it may be seen plainly that what they have done has been done in the sight of God. Humans' natural tendency is to cover up. Humans' natural tendency is to not take accountability, not take ownership, to deflect, to deny what's really going on. And that just seems to be confirmed based on what is happening with regards to this entire situation. Which brings us to our next point, the rot beneath. Seemingly, this isn't just an isolated issue. Perhaps this has been going on for a very long time that connects to the JFK and MLK files. Nick Bryant recently went on a Sean Ryan podcast and had this to say about how deep this stuff really goes. Check this out.
What's your opinion of the FBI nowadays?
Well, I mean, it's in this case, it's obviously unbelievably corrupt. The FBI knew. Okay, so the FBI knew about Jeffrey Epstein in 1996. We know that for a fact. Maria Farmer, who was assaulted by Jeffrey Epstein, and her sister was assaulted by Jeffrey Epstein, went to the FBI in 1996. Think if the FBI had acted on Maria Farmer's information. Think of all those girls that could have been saved.
So it seems like, at the very least, the FBI has videos and even people that are willing to testify. Now, we're going to come back to who's willing to testify here in a moment. But if they have videos, why are they incapable of identifying who is on those videos and charging other people who were involved in these heinous crimes? Well, I think sometimes memes can beautifully articulate some of the things that are happening beneath the surface. Check this out. How a bill becomes law. Will release your kiddie tapes if you don't vote yes. Now, all of this is in direct contrast with what the scriptures teach. Psalm 82 verse 3 says, defend the weak and the fatherless, uphold the cause of the poor and the oppressed, rescue the weak and the needy, deliver them from the hand of the wicked. So it seems like, at the least, there's some sort of corruption happening here, that if we were to use our brains, that the weak are victimized so that the powerful can stay protected, and be exploited to whatever agenda that the other people who are in positions of power need them to behave and act in accordance with. Even if the names of the people on those tapes aren't public yet, the pattern is clear. Blackmail and corruption aren't glitches, they're features. And yet, something interesting is starting to happen. Even their own people are starting to speak out. People who advocated for Trump and helped get him elected. Let's start with the most lighthearted and friendly. Andrew Schultz and the Flagrant podcast, who ended up having Trump on. And many people would argue that podcasts like this is what helped him get elected. Much of that strategy was supposedly orchestrated by Trump's youngest son, Barron. Check out what Andrew Schultz had to say after all of this went viral over the weekend.
People that they'll DM me and be like, you see what your boy's doing? You voted for this. I'm like, I voted for none of this. He's doing the exact opposite of everything I voted for. Yeah. I want him to stop the wars. He's funding them. I want him to shrink spending, reduce the budget. He's increasing it. It's like everything that he said he's going to do, except sending immigrants back.
But there does seem to be some hope for this potentially fully coming out. Someone is willing to testify before Congress. But before we get there, check out what Matt Walsh had to say. Up until 10 seconds ago, there was a unanimous agreement that Epstein was a PDF file and trafficker with high-profile clientele who all must be exposed and brought to justice. Now, out of the blue, we're being told that none of that is true, and everyone who believes this thing that everyone believed is a whack job and a conspiracy theorist. This is the kind of shameless 180-degree unexplained pivot that leftists typically specialize in. Very weird to see it happening on the right. Now, that last part, very weird to see it happening on the right. Matt's old enough to have lived through the Iraq war and the weapons of mass destruction that we just had to go in and take out. He's also old enough to live through the Afghanistan and the forever wars that America spent trillions of dollars on and almost 2 decades fighting terrorism. And some would argue that places like Afghanistan and Iraq are worse off today than before we invaded. All of that was propagated by the right. All of that was propagated by George Bush Jr. and Dick Cheney wanting to go in and have these wars that were ideological to bring freedom and overthrow tyranny so that the people of the Middle East may have more democracy. But it didn't work out that way. It just generated more and more money for the military-industrial complex, which is, surprise, surprise, usually ran by folks who are right-leaning and involved in politics with having folks like George Bush and Dick Cheney in their pocket. So I'm a bit taken aback, but I promised you hope. And to drive home the point even more, that there are cracks in the silence, check out Jeffrey Epstein's right hand. The person that was with him along for all this, the only other person that was tried and convicted of these heinous crimes, Ghislaine Maxwell.
Do you believe that he committed? Because many don't. No, I don't believe he did it. I believe that he would.
Newsweek is reporting that according to an anonymous source speaking to the Daily Mail, Maxwell, who was convicted in 2022 over her links to Epstein's illicit activities and is serving a 20-year prison sentence, has expressed a willingness to testify before Congress about her experience. The source reportedly told the publication, despite the rumors, Ghislaine was never offered any kind of plea deal. She would be more than happy to sit before Congress and tell her story. No one from the government has ever asked her to share what she knows. She remains the only person to be jailed in connection to Epstein, and she would welcome the chance to tell the American public the truth. So she's currently in federal prison. And allegedly, according to this source, which hasn't been verified by Newsweek, but is seemingly saying that she is willing to testify. This is her mugshot in federal prison. There's like a video of her jogging. It looks like a really nice federal prison that she's in. Beautiful outdoor trees and lots of greenery. She is willing to testify. Now, if she ends up going missing or ends up deleted, what does that say about this entire situation? Hopefully, she will get to testify before Congress, but I'm not hopeful. I think that there will probably be more cover-up of this situation. People are speculating, how would she die? Self-deletion, motor vehicle accident during transport, killed by another inmate, heart attack, medical issue. Now, I don't know if she will testify. I don't know if the victims in a situation will ever see their day of justice. I don't know if all the people that campaigned for Trump will ever feel vindicated and not this sense of betrayal and frustration that they feel. But what I do know is that Jesus said in Luke chapter 12, verse 2, there is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed or hidden that will not be made known. What you have said in the dark will be heard in the daylight, and what you have whispered in the inner rooms will be proclaimed from the roofs. Now, I love our Logos Bible software because we can do amazing things like click on a word and go to the original language. So this word hidden in the original Greek is kryptos, which is the things done in secret, the things that are covered or concealed. Now, by the way, Logos is giving all you guys a free 60-day trial. The software used to be hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, depending on which tier you were at. Now it starts at $12 a month, which is amazing. And you can get a free 60-day trial by hitting the link in the bio and signing up using my code Ruslan, logos.com/Ruslan. So check this out. That word hidden, concealed, unseen, right? These unseen things that are covered, that are secrets, will eventually be brought into the light. This is what Jesus is saying here, that the things that are covered, the things that are concealed will be brought to the light. If not in this life, then definitely in the next life to come. And so to summarize, the denial and the deflection of nothing to see here is obviously infuriating, but it shows that there's a deeper rot from beneath, that this isn't just a bug of the system. This is a feature of it, and it's built seemingly to protect the powerful. But there does seem to be cracks in the silence, that in this day and age, with all the access to technology, I don't know if they'll be able to keep the truth from getting out forever. So if we circle back to the original moment that we're in with regards to the entire Trump administration kind of just shrugging and saying, why are we still talking about this guy? I think the important thing for us to remember, especially as followers of Jesus, is that the Lord does see and care about the oppressed, even when the world doesn't. Because the cries of the vulnerable reach even heaven, even if they're buried down here. Because one day, that missing minute of footage won't matter, because the judge who sees everything will bring it into the light. Ultimately, I don't think any of this is new. I don't think any of this is novel. This has been historically done in America for a while. And if you want to see about the time where the CIA tried to save the nation, but something even worse happened with a couple of Harvard students, check out this video over here. If you want that free 60-day Logos trial, we'll have it over here. All right? I'll see you over there. Peace.